This is Mick and the Fat Man, and we're talking life and music from the 60s through to the noughties. Well, welcome everybody to Mick and the Fat Man, episode number 13. We are coming to you live from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. That's right, folks. We've shaken the shackles of the Sydney lockdown and we've moved to the Queensland lockdown. We have taken a fairly tortuous route to get here, mind you. We've ridden in a number of removalist trucks, first out to Orange in New South Wales and then on to Moree, also in New South Wales, crossed the border into Goondiwindi, before making our way to the beautiful Sunshine Coast where we're holed up in the Sunshine Plaza. And it's great. We've headed up here so that we could commence our role as lockdown commissioners for the Communicable Diseases Network of Australia, the CDNA. It's been a long time coming, but Mick's finally been recognised for his extensive experience with communicable diseases. Let's face it, he's had plenty. He's the first person they turned to when they needed to review the country's lockdown processes and procedures firsthand. So, g'day, Mick. How you going?
I'm doing just fine, mate.
Excellent news. Mick, I know you've had plenty of experience with the communicable diseases. You've had Ebola, you've had Hep A and B, you've had pertussis, you've got a gold medal in sexually transmitted diseases. We all know that. You've had shingleosis, you've had tuberculosis, you've had the West Nile virus, you've had Zika. With that extensive experience, mate, where do you rate your COVID-19?
Look, I think just on name alone, COVID-19 and COVID just doesn't rate. It's a quiet, non-offensive, inconspicuous little name. It hasn't even got enough syllables. It's rubbish.
I know. When you look at something like shingleosis, that's a great name. But COVID, what the hell is that rubbish? Anyway, mate, tell me what you've been listening to this week.
Mate, I've had a song recommended to me by a friend of the program, Tom, and it's by a band called Type O Negative, who are, believe it or not, doom metal.
Doom metal. Now that's interesting. What's doom metal mean?
Well, as far as this band goes, it's very slow and heavy. It's got a barbiturate heaviness, almost as if you're sort of moving through sort of thick mud trying to get to wherever you are. I think you've got a copy of the track there, so we might have a little listen. It's Summer Breeze. Remember the old song by Seals and Crofts?
Yeah, with a little bit of, very nice. Another little band and from the 60s and 70s, Seals and Crofts. Let's have a see how Type O have done. Yep, it's like swimming through treacle, isn't it?
That's exactly the term I was looking for, mate. I love it. I think it's really, really interesting. And I love when you do a cover or when a band does a cover that it's different, that they add something to it and make it their own. John Cale's done a few of those, but a really good example, I think, would be the Dylan song, All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah.
Now, you ask anybody who did that song, and they'll all say Hendrix, because he made it his own song.
That's exactly right.
And I love it when a band takes a song and just makes it something so different from what the original writer intended.
Well, when you mentioned this to me, it made me think of another song by a band called Disturbed, who I don't know whether they're doom metal or what they are, but nonetheless, they are fairly similar in that they've come out with this cover of Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. Probably not as barbiturate heavy as you put it, but nonetheless, just a little bit of a sound here of it. Left it scenes while I was sleeping. And that's another interesting cover, I think. And the singer there is normally sort of doing that sort of grovel sort of vocals, they do, the some of these guys do. So I don't know what it's called. Singing really loud with a crust. I don't know. Anyway, it's a great cover. Another cover that I think people should have a listen to. We'll put up. These are actually. I'm just playing these off YouTube. So I'll put a link to those in the show notes for people to go and have a look at, because they're both good videos to have a look at. All right.
Excellent.
Let's move on. I've been listening to an old album from 1990. They Might Be Giants, Flood, and what a great band they were. Well, probably still are. I don't even know whether they're still around. But there's some great songs on the album They Might Be Giants, Flood. Istanbul. It's not Constantinople. It's Istanbul. Another great song on there is Racist Friend, and also Birdhouse in Your Soul. They're a great band who have over many years written lots of songs that mean absolutely nothing. So if you want to get into some good sound, they're actually quite a good musical sound. Have a listen to this.
Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, now Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, now it's church delight on a moonlit night. Every gal in Constantinople lives in Istanbul, now Constantinople, so if you...
And it goes on pretty much like that. So once again, we'll find the album on and put a link in it to for you to have a listen to at some point. All right. Well, Mick, let's move on. So let's open up that old Globite school bag you got over there, and what are you dragging out for us to have a look at today, mate?
Mate, quite excited about what we've got today. It's a bit of history that we lived through. Hang on, I'll just drag it out of the box. It's huge, and it's Aussie pub rock.
That is big.
We're going to talk about at least one band, the Angels, and if we've got time, we might talk about My Sex also.
That's great stuff. What a great band. I just should point out too that we're actually, once again, we're not in the same location exactly. You're on one side of the Sunshine Plaza. I'm on the other side of the Sunshine Plaza. That's why we haven't exactly got a good sound. I mean, we should try to get together, but there's some lockdowns happening up here in the Sunshine Coast. So we've got a sound. Our sound's not perfect in this time, so I will apologise about that. Let's talk about the Angels. Interestingly, they're a hard-working band. They had 34 singles that made into the charts in Australia, and 14 albums made it into the charts. And I think you and I will never forget that great their album Face to Face.
How could you?
Which is great. No X was also very good, but we kind of really didn't go all the way through their discography with them. We didn't travel the journey with the Angels all the way because life got in the way. But oddly enough, the thing I find really interesting is that the number one album, the only number one album they ever had, was Beyond Salvation from 1990. And I don't think I've ever listened to Beyond Salvation from 1990. Have you?
No, mate, no, not at all.
And the highest rating song, so the first single they ever had was Am I Ever Going to See Your Face Again? And then there was a You're a Lady Now, followed by Coming Down, then Take a Long Line. You sort of think, in my memory, Take a Long Line was the song that came out kind of first, really. But anyway, it didn't. The highest rating song that they ever had through all of their career in the Australian charts was We Got to Get Out of This Place by The Animals.
The Animals, yeah.
So all of those great, powerful, fantastic songs they had from the 70s, it wasn't until 1987 that they got their highest rating album, which was a cover in January 1987. We Got to Get Out of This Place. So I think it's interesting because realistically, our memory of this band is really the 70s and maybe the early 80s. I think, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would indeed, mate. And our memory of this band is we've got lots of albums of the Angels and lots of good stuff, but our memory is based on them live.
And wow, What a band they
Weren't
were.
they great?
What a band they were live. They were explosive. Give us a bit of a rundown.
Probably before we start talking about the Angels, we should start talking. We should explain to those who weren't around at that time what pub rock is. Now, back in the 70s, mid 70s through to mid to late 80s, there was a phenomenon called pub rock. Very Australian. Probably the closest that you'd compare it to might be US bar band boogie. But it's a hell of a lot better and a lot more exciting, open, involved, sweaty. So pubs. In Australia, a pub is a place where you go to drink alcohol. There's one in every major suburb around Australia. And in Sydney in particular, there's places like the Coogee Oceanic, there's the Sundowner in Punchbowl, which is now a Croatian club or something.
Something like that, yeah.
A couple of big ones at DY, big one at Mona Vale, all on the northern beaches. So many of these places had big auditoriums with capacity of 1,000 plus. It was a cheap way to see bands because the prices were underwritten by alcohol sales. And by God, they must have made a fortune on alcohol sales.
And they were they were very barn-like, these venues, weren't they?
Absolutely. Big square room, not too many pillars to get in the way of seeing the band. Although some notorious places did have pillars just where you didn't want them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were a barn. And so getting the sound right was an achievement in itself.
Loud, usually. That's the best way to get the sound right.
Yeah, that's right. If you play it loud enough from the stage, you actually scare away the echo.
It's interesting. My next door neighbour, who was a muso, I was talking to the other day, and he was talking about pub rock, and he said, "Yeah, I wasn't around really when pub rock was around, but he said I was in I think it might have been the Manly Vale Hotel. I can't remember, one of the pubs, like one of those pubs that are on the pub rock circuit." And he looked into the room where, obviously, and he said there was this huge big room, and I thought to myself, what went on in here? And there was nothing in there.
Yeah, it was. It was, and every pub had them, and they became the central entertainment venue. Not just rock, but rock is the most obvious beneficiary of these rooms. But they had all sorts of things in these places, and they were very much the local community centre for youth.
And I think the the other thing was that it was pre-poker machines in hotels as well. So there was no closing off half the pub to put poker machines in for people to put their money down. So they actually had more room. So there was always this big auditorium where bands could come, and lots of men, lots of blokes.
Oh, look, exactly. Look, it was a phenomenon of the 80s, and as I say, the late 70s. These days, you just don't see that. You might see the odd band playing, but it's not the same. And the rooms aren't the same. They're not as big. They're not as loud. They're not as anything really. Predominantly male.
Yeah, probably.
I'll get a lot of howling from people who say, what about? But it was predominantly male.
It was.
Bands like Cold Chisel,
yeah,
Skyhooks, Men at Work, AC/DC, The Angels, My Sex.
Split
bands.
Split Ends.
Playing to young... Split Ends, well, yes, absolutely. Playing to young men aged... I know the age to get into a licensed premises is 18, but the attendance at these venues was probably something late 16 through to 25.
Yeah. Right. 18 was aspirational, I think.
Exactly. Now, because of the unique nature of the performing in these pubs, not just Sydney, it's not a Sydney thing. It was Melbourne. It was all the way around Australia. As Pete, a friend of the program, Pete tells us that not so many of these bands got to Mackay. We might do a broadcast from one of these days.
No, sorry about that, Pete. But
but that even they had a venue, so they were ready for the bands. Maybe just not enough people.
Yeah.
But it didn't go beyond Australia. Other major areas had unique characteristics. I mentioned bar bands. Now, with Dusty Gibbons dying recently, I went back and had a listen to some of the early ZZ Top stuff. Not my favourite. It is a style. It's American bar band boogie, but to me, it doesn't seem to have the energy that Australian bands were able to convey from the stage.
Look, they had a sound, and they had a good blues sound and a good rock sound.
Yeah.
But if you see
Yeah.
you see them live and you see clips of them live, there's not a lot of action going on there.
Yeah,
It's just two blokes standing there playing rock and blues, you know. Whereas you think of some of the bands that we saw, they were electric. They got you going, really got you going, and there was, you know, theatrics by the lead singers usually, although not necessarily just the lead singer. But yeah, they were really thumping music and putting on a show, a real show.
Well, yeah, absolutely. The Angels, since we might as well start talking about the Angels, they're a perfect example of an 80s pub rock Aussie guitar band.
Mm.
High energy, a non-stop blast of energy on the show from start to finish. Twin guitars with the Brewster brothers, but they were standing totally still in sunglasses at night.
That's right. That's right. John Brewster, he's been doing the same. He did the same thing for what, 40 years basically, just stood still playing guitar.
Well, so you wouldn't want to distract people with anything else.
That's right.
So, but the movement on stage, the fact that they were there was a feature of the band.
Yeah.
So the movement on stage for the Angels was centered around the lead singer, Doc Neeson, who was an absolute ball of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy must have been, forget how he ended up later, but in his heyday, he was a ball of energy. He must have been so fit. The band themselves, 3 chords, solid rock rhythm section with one of the Brewsters playing highlights and solos and so on. Mm-hmm. And they were fun.
And interestingly, they came from a jug band. You know, I think that from South Australia, they were playing as a jug band, weren't they?
They were indeed. And I saw them on their first show in Sydney, and it was a radio station, I think it was 2SM, but I wouldn't swear to that, concert at Dawes Point.
Ah.
And I saw the Angels play. They were starting to move towards the pub rock sound that they had. But yeah, they had a jug band, and you can see in some of their earlier stuff, it's that bump, 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 bump sound that they had. It wasn't as fast, and it wasn't as thumping.
And in fact,
they developed.
If you go back and listen to their very first album, the very first Angels album, there's country elements in it. It's not just rock. I mean, it's not a particularly great album, but it's very different to where they ended up.
Well, yeah, it is. And even, I mean, on that album is Am I Ever Going to See Your Face Again, which became one of their most famous songs and certainly a crowd favourite live. And on the original album, it's a bit slower.
It's slower.
So
it doesn't have that.
To make it as a hit, they sped it up a bit and tweaked the treble.
And put that high energy guitar solo at the beginning of it that everybody recognises. Yeah. It wasn't there in the original song.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
and it's funny. I was watching in preparation for talking about this. I was watching a documentary on YouTube about the Angels, and it's actually Vander and Young, who are great record producers. They produced that first album, and as we sort of said, it's not a particularly great album, but they actually met AC/DC in South Australia. AC/DC went and saw their concert and went to them and said, "You should go and talk to Harry Vander and George Young about getting your album going. Go and have a talk to Albert Music and see if they can do your music for you." And then they came over to Sydney, and they were basically signed up to do an album, and they did it with Vander and Young, which are were the dynamic driving force behind AC/DC at the time. So it's very interesting.
Well, Vander and Young obviously had some experience in the rock biz, having been the backbone of the Easy Beats.
That's right, the Easy Beats, and then obviously they went on and did a bit of solo stuff themselves. But realistically, they were at the higher times of Albert Music was those two. And interesting, on that same show, there was the ex-CEO, or CEO, I can't remember what she was now, but Fifi, someone or other, I can't remember her name. And she was saying how the Angels were very different. She said, we had just signed AC/DC, we were in the process of signing Rose Tattoo, and these other guys came along. And the thing different about these guys were very different. One, they were tall, which I thought was interesting because if you look at the other, they're not very tall. And she said, and they were educated. They had university degrees. None of the other bands, none of these other big bands we had that. And so they were very different bands. So, and I think we can talk about it later, but as that band had a lot of tension in it throughout the years, and maybe, there was a few more egos going on in that band than some of the other ones.
Well, yeah, I think that could be. But you listen to the words, and you can tell there's at least, I don't think pretensions of education, but it seemed to me a lot of high school poetry almost in some of Doc's lyrics. Yeah, rapid fire machine gun vocal delivery, but perfect diction. You could, no matter how fast you were singing, you could get every single word. Every word was enunciated clearly.
He probably went to a private school. Did he go to a private school?
That I've never been able to find out exactly where he spent his secondary school, but yeah, he was very well spoken, and I've seen him interviewed a number of times. Very well spoken, very very thoughtful in his answers. Yep. So he knew what was going on, but live he became the Energizer Bunny. He was, he had a robotic style of movement, jumping up and down, running all over the stage. And now you put a YouTube clip of something onto the show notes, and there's an earlier one of the band at La Trobe University in 1979, just when they were hitting their straps, and crappy quality video, but it really gives such an impression of how good they were live.
You must try and find that. We'll put that on the show notes as well, so that people can.
I think so. And we've mentioned a word pretty much throughout this entire podcast: theatrical and theatrics. And songs like "Take a Long Line" started with Doc shouting, "This is it, folks!" over the top, over a very heavy driving rhythm section with the guitars and the bass all playing in a line. And he's waving a scarf or something similar over his head, and the crowd just goes crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. A couple of slower songs to let the crowd get their breath, things like "Out of the Blue" and "Dawn is Breaking," and I heard Noddy Holder from Slade, talking about how they did "Darlin' Be Home Soon" for exactly that same purpose. They'd be playing all these really fast rock and roll songs, and then they play "Darlin' Be Home Soon" to let the crowd get their breath before launching in almost as an intermission, before launching into the second half of really rockin' songs.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you saw them at Dawes Point in what year would that have been, you reckon?
Oh my God.
Early 70s, I guess. I mean, late 70s.
Early mid 70s, about 75 maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the first time I saw them was the Sundowners. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I saw them, and I think it was with you and another friend of ours.
Yeah.
And the one thing I remember it was just amazing music, amazing concert, but also the thing that stuck in my mind, a line up for the men's toilet. Now, you never see a line up for the men's toilet.
Yeah.
And I think, as we're talking about, it was very blokey. So there was a line up for the men's toilet and not one for the ladies.
So very much a role reversal, wasn't
it? Yeah. So, it was quite interesting.
Live, a lot of people, when they say live, they think, oh, wow, it's got a great light show. And a lot of great live bands have a terrific light show. The Angels weren't a light show band. They had 3 banks of 3 at the back. They had some downlights and some colour washes, and that's about it. The songs were what the Angels were all about. It was all in the energy, the sound, and Doc jumping all over the stage, as I say, like an Energizer bunny.
Now, interestingly, the whole thing of "I'm ever going to see your face again," and the crowd chant. Have you any idea when that began?
It began around 78.
Really?
But
that early?
Yeah, that early. But I've heard that. I've never seen. I never saw the Angels when that crowd was alive. It became very popular towards the end of their first phase, and I think when they're playing live at Narara, that's actually been recorded.
Yeah.
So there's a chant of them doing swearing alert. If you don't like swearing, turn it off or put your hands over the kiddies' ears. But the band, the song goes, "Am I ever going to see your face again?" And the crowd cheers back, "No way, get fucked, fuck off."
Now, Narara's...
which when you've got a couple of thousand people all yelling that in unison, it's an interesting
So
situation.
Narara's 1983. So clearly it's well known by 1983.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I never, the times that I saw them, it didn't exist.
Yeah, look, it's very typical of the Australian larrikin spirit. Yeah, before this one, there was a fairly obvious response to. There was another band, nowhere near as successful, but big at the time and big on Countdown, was Hush.
Oh yeah.
Again, the satin clothes and the singer with a vest and no shirt underneath and a hairy chest, Keith, and they had a song called "Get Rocked," and you can well imagine what the crowd response to that one was.
Yeah, no, I can.
In fact, I saw them live once, and Keith said to the audience, "The words rocked."
Yes. I think I saw Hush at Hurstville Civic Centre for some reason.
Oh, why not? Hurstville Civic Centre had them all. It was the place to see bands.
The place that I used to go to all the time for my pub rock was the Riverwood Hotel, or as the Domino as we used to call it back in the day. It was literally around about 200 metres from my house. So it was fairly easy to get to, and basically bands played pretty much every night. I wouldn't like to have lived it any closer to it than we did, but pretty much every night. And the big bands, Cold Chisel, the Angels, My Sex, everybody played there. And they were on. That was a circuit that they were on. So people would go, and there would be. So these big bands, so the Angels was one of the hardest working rock bands in Australia. They would do the Manly Vale, Riverwood, the Salinas, and those sorts of things. There'd be this circuit they do all the time. And then they'd go South Australia, then they go Melbourne, then they go Queensland, then they go back to Sydney and do it all. And both them and Cold Chisel, I think we used to play 6-7 times a week, I should say. They were just machines.
Yeah. And Riverwood Millers, crappy pub,
Awful pub.
And the room wasn't very big, by the standards of pub rock, which made it a really great place to see these bands because you could be right up close and personal with the band.
Yeah, and
Rosie Tats Rose Tattoo played there quite a lot.
Quite a lot. I saw them heaps of times.
Yeah.
More than I really wanted to.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't any trouble. You're talking about hard-working bands, and you're totally right with the Angels because it wasn't hard to see the Angels, and everywhere they played, they got a full house.
Just back on the Rosie Tats. What's the singer's name? I've forgotten his name now. Angry Anderson had his 73rd birthday the other day.
Oh, life goes on. Yeah.
73.
Oh, dear. Let's not talk about such unedifying things.
No, and because when you think about Angels, Doc, the singer, has unfortunately since passed away.
Yep.
From cancer.
Yeah. But in my mind, the Doc that I'll always remember is the Doc from the late 70s.
Yep.
Pair of black trousers. Tall, thin guy. Pair of black trousers, white shirt. Sometimes sunglasses, and lots of energy. And we saw them, between us and together, we saw them so many times. We talked about the Dawes Point concert.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them, and Molly introduced them on Countdown. I can't remember if the first time they ever played was Coming Down or Am I Ever Going to See Your Face Again. But I can remember their stylist has said, "Okay, jump on the punk bandwagon." So they were all in skinny black trousers, white shirts, and thin black ties, presumably to cash in on that new wave movement out of the UK, that post-punk thing.
Yeah.
We saw them at Sundowners, at Punch Bowl, a pub in the southwest of Sydney.
That was a big venue, wasn't it?
It was a big venue. And again, a bit like Riverwood Millers, it used to get all of the bands. Yeah. And I saw them that night, or one night rather. I took off my shirt because it was so damn hot, back when I used to have hair.
You would have been beautiful too. A lovely
It,
sight.
it was lovely hair, and because it was curly, it sort of was high. But then when it got wet, it sort of went down to my butt. Um,
Beautiful. It's a
and
great
yeah,
image.
it was lovely to see, and certainly well missed. So I took my shirt off after 3 songs and picked it up at the end of the show, and it was soaking wet. And your hair would be the same thing. You'd come out and looking like you'd been for a swim.
And the good thing about that was you weren't drinking as much.
That's right. Yeah, well,
It was cheaper.
I can remember one Cold Chisel show where I actually did drink so much, but that's another story.
I can't believe that.
I know. Back when I was young and silly and foolhardy.
Yeah.
And Mitch had to take me back to his place, which was luckily only a couple of blocks away.
Yeah.
I saw the Angels supporting Bowie in '78.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny, we were talking about this only yesterday, and you were talking about Doc climbing all over the stage, and he was supporting Bowie, so he had Bowie's stage set up, and the PA and the amps, going up 30, 40 feet up in the air. And during the song Mr. Damage, Doc climbed to the top of Bowie's PA, singing this damn song. It was.
I think you'll find we'll put, as I said, we'll put the link to the Narara concert on the show notes. But I'm pretty sure he does the exact same thing at Narara as well.
Yeah, very impressive, and certainly a show highlight. To have the singer climbing all over the stage, and as you so rightly pointed out, I hadn't thought of it. He must have been very fit to be able to do that, because they're not small, those bloody PA boxes.
No, and they'd fall down. You would fall down a long way if you did.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Later on, I saw him at St George Leagues Club, which is another Australian and I think possibly even a Sydney phenomenon. Leagues Club, big sort of pubs where you theoretically had to be a member, and they had big auditoriums, and they also used to form part of the pub circuit. You'd have bands playing, but a lot more sterile because of the Leagues Club, RSL Club, run by middle-aged to older men, respectable.
That's right. Yes,
that's exactly the word. But they still managed to transmit their live energy into this auditorium, and it was a great show.
Yeah, that's right. We did go. Yeah, that's right. The clubs, RSL clubs, it's all a bit serious, isn't it? You used to be able to go and have a nice meal there, though, before you went and saw the band.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not like the Riverwood Hotel steak and chips, I think, was the standard fare there. T-bone steak, chips, and a bit of salad with canned beetroot in the salad. That was always a classic.
Oh, that was a highlight, wasn't it? Yeah.
And the pool, and you go up there, and this is what we used to do: go up there, have a bit of a meal, play a bit of pool, and go and see the band.
As you do.
Doesn't get any better.
Exactly. That's a very full night.
That's right. And Friday night was always a big one for me, and then my brother would come over and visit us on Saturday morning and bring the dog in to lick my face on a Saturday morning. It was always good. I always enjoyed it.
Yeah, Gary was always considerate like that.
He's a nice bloke. He was always thinking of me. So, as I said, they had the Angels. They had a very big album collection, but realistically, we didn't follow them that much after early '80s. I think life got in the way. Yeah.
The last album last Angels album that really meant a lot to me was Dark Room.
Yeah.
And that was it. I remember the one before Dark Room. Let's not go into a track listing or album listing, but there was an album called No Exit, which was probably their peak of their pub rock fame. And back in those days, you had to physically hold the album to be able to play it. You tell that to the kids today, and they won't believe you. But you had to buy the album to play it to get to know it.
And and if you remember, like we used to hang around with quite a few people, but and have gatherings of parties and those sorts of things. Face to Face was always one of the albums always played.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nearly all, one of the very first ones, and maybe followed up again at some point during the night later on. But it was a biggie.
Yeah. Well, Face to Face, they did an EP Yeah. Does anybody remember EPs, which is like a mini album and a large single to celebrate the support gig with Bowie in '77?
Right.
And it had a couple of songs on it. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, really good. But it only had about 4 songs on it.
I don't think I ever bought any EPs in my life, even though I knew about them, but I don't think I ever bought.
I didn't buy a lot because I would buy the album.
Yeah, I always thought they were a bit of a rip-off, basically, because albums weren't that cheap, were they?
This EP was good. It was called After the Rain, and it had live stuff on it, stuff you couldn't get on the album, and songs you couldn't get on the album. So
okay.
That's where it becomes special.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I was not a huge fan of the EP genre because with a limited budget, you could only really afford the album. So
yeah, absolutely. And we were kids, and we had not really flush with cash.
No, you had to work on the weekends or during the holidays, during school holidays or uni holidays or whatever to make a bob. In fact, we both used to work at the rugby league selling programs.
Indeed.
And gee, didn't we get rich doing that?
Yeah, didn't we? Yeah.
However, we did used to listen to Double J at the football.
Yes, yeah. You'd have your radio, your big Hanamax cassette player radio, sitting on top of the pile of programs. So it wouldn't matter how many programs you sell. You can do that automatically without even thinking, and you're just listening to rock and roll all afternoon with George Wayne. Yeah,
it was great. It was really good. But the problem is we used to have to travel all over the bloody countryside to go to every ground. And so if you had to go to Manly, that was quite a trip to go to the Brookvale Oval.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and nobody wanted to go to Manly anyway because it was the home ground of Manly.
That's right. But I used to enjoy Cogger Oval, the St George home ground. Cogger Oval.
That was very friendly,
reasonably convenient.
And yeah, it was. Sydney, for those who don't know, is very much like Melbourne in that it's very much football parochial. Whatever area you live in, that's your team. And woe betide you if you should support anybody else.
You'd have to explain yourself.
Yeah, well, exactly right. I mean, the line goes that people in Sydney have support 2 teams. They support their own team and anybody playing Manly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And for those who are overseas, we follow a game over here called Rugby League, and in Melbourne they follow a game called Aussie Rules. 2 very, very different games. Rugby League has its origins out of the rugby union. That's where it's split from rugby union in the early 1900s, and Aussie Rules has its origins from some crazy person drunk come up with a game somehow. I don't know how they did it, but anyway.
Yeah, a cross between rugby union and soccer, I think.
No, Gaelic football's in there, mate.
Oh, of course it is, yes.
Yes, so Gaelic football, there's a bit of that in there. There's a bit of some indigenous game that comes from somewhere, and then other shit they just make up. I don't understand it at all. But it has become reasonably popular in Sydney as well with the Sydney Swans nowadays. But anyway, we digress. They have...
we do digress. How unusual.
All right, so anything else there we need about the Angels that you wanted to mention, mate?
Well, look, I think an important point about the Angels, you mentioned how they were educated, and Doc's lyrics certainly betrayed a fairly good line of education. But I'm always reminded of a quote from Ian Gillan, when he was talking about Smoke on the Water. He said, how the words sounded was more important than what they said. And Doc's lyrics were very, very well crafted to fit into that sort of rat-a-tat, bullet-attack of the rhythm and lead, and his lyrics did the same. Oh no, you found the door. Too late, you found you never got the key. Bum 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 bum. Things like that. It was perfect for us. We were young. We weren't giving too much critical thought to the lyrics. He wasn't trying to rabble rouse the countryside. He was just playing songs that sounded really well with a great driving rhythm section.
I agree. Because I'm not a bigger lyric sort of rememberer, and in general, I have many songs that I never knew I never knew the words for, in particular, the Angels, Marseille. Marseille.
Marseille,
I
yeah.
never knew that was about Marseille.
Well, I would have thought the title was a bit of a giveaway.
It didn't even occur to me. I was only listening to it the other day, and I went, "Oh, okay." The penny dropped. I thought,
bought me a box of French cigars.
Yes. I never
learned my French from the girl next door, teaching me night and day.
I never listened to the lyrics before. I didn't even know it was called Marseille, actually.
Take me away to Marseille.
Take me. And you know what? I think back in the day, I think it was something in my head. It was take me away to myself or something like that. I used to have in my head. I'm pretty sure I didn't have Marseille in there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, true.
Oh,
true.
Dear.
And then
Philistine.
And then I was listening to it in the car the other day, and the actual track comes up on the screen and says, "Oh, you play it's Marseille playing." I went, "Oh, there you go." God, I'm a dickhead.
I love stories of where the lyrics come from.
Yeah,
I think everybody in Australia knows the song "No Secrets" by the Angels. Where it talks about Amanda the actress.
Yes.
Amanda the actress waits at the window, something like that.
Yep.
And it's a staple of classic rock stations around Australia. And I heard Doc interviewed once, and it came. Doc got on. Doc was at Newtown, and it was raining. So he got into a cab and ended up sharing a cab with a girl who said, "Can I share your cab with you?" They started talking. She was an artist, and he changed that to actress in the song and said her name was Amanda. Bang! The first verse of the song was born, and he just filled it up with other rhyming, fitting words. Happy days. It doesn't have to mean anything.
There you go. That saves a lot of writer's block. There's no worries about writer's block. You just get in the cab with the right bird, and you got a song.
Well, exactly right. How are we doing for time? Do you want to lurch into my six?
Look, we've got 40 minutes. Do you want to keep on going? I don't know. I don't want to bore people if we to keep on going, because we can do pub rock forever and ever and ever with different bands. So I'm thinking we might call it quits, mate.
Okay. Yeah. Happy with that.
All right. So, folks, just remember to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. Got the emails there in the show notes if you want to get in contact with us, and like us on iTunes. It's actually not called iTunes anymore. I think it's called Apple Podcasts nowadays. So you can like us on there. There's a couple of nice reviews on there. Next time we might have a bit of self-congratulation. We'll read a couple of the reviews out of there. Give us a nice high mark there, a 5 on there. It'd be really great. And I think we'll call it quits, and thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.
Can't wait. See ya.